Yeah. So, I did it on running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. I'm not going to do a quarterback one because I started looking at the data and I just couldn't find anything. There's just nothing. I'm not going to try to put something together that doesn't make sense and doesn't have really strong findings. So no quarterback one. Usually you have an outlier season for quarterbacks that end up really exceeding ADP anyway. But with wide receivers, usually they were young. So what I did was I looked at, and this goes for all three of those positions. I looked at the 80 overall ADP for every player since 2011 versus the amount of points that those guys scored, and then I charted that and found a trend line. Anyone above that trend line was exceeding ADP. Anyone below it was not. And I looked at guys who far exceeded ADP and deemed them the breakout guys, the guys who were drafted after round 5 and exceeded ADP by 100 or more points in that season. And then I looked at that subset and I said, what do these guys have in common? At the wide receiver position, what I found was interesting is that usually a lot of these wide receivers had fairly high target shares the season before they broke out. And by fairly high, I mean like 16 to 17%. So it wasn't like these guys were, bottom of the barrel, third or fourth string wide receivers on their team the year prior. It's that they were good, and volume obviously and targets are an indicator that someone's good. But they were good one year and then they just blew up the next. So guys like Deante Johnson make a lot of sense this year. There's a lot of, Mecole Hardman's kind of interesting, but didn't have the volume last year. So I'm not as on him as a result of that. And obviously Sammy's in the way a little bit there. So that was one thing that was interesting with the wide receiver position. They're also usually young. So go for those second year guys, especially more than the third year guys.
Okay, I want to throw out all the rookies who were disappointing last year, and I want you guys to tell me if you think that they can break out this year. Okay. So the first one is obvious. It's N'Keal Harry, first round draft pick, only played in 7 games, 24 targets, 2 touchdowns. Pete, can N'Keal Harry break out?
I'm a big N'Keal Harry truther, and again, like JJ mentioned, when we see these breakouts at wide receiver, they're traditionally second-year breakouts. They have good pedigree. He didn't check the huge volume thing, but there's also a lot of change going on in that offense. And he didn't play a ton last year because of injuries. So in that case, I think we want to fall back on the college profile in the draft capital. And you look around there and it's like, other than Edelman, who's going to command targets consistently in that offense? So I'm definitely on N'Keal Harry. No one wants to draft him. You can get him super cheap.
Okay. Andy Isabella, JJ.
My answer is no, even though I loved Isabella coming out, like truther status, Andy Isabella. Probability is working against them. Usually guys who didn't have a significant injury, which is why N'Keal Harry or Paris Campbell, you can make the argument for because they were banged up last year. Andy Isabella just couldn't find the field. I understand when he did, he was really efficient. But guys during their rookie year, if they were relatively productive, that's a good sign. Guys who weren't, it's not that great of a sign. Like Darrell Henderson, there's some Damian Harris, there's something going on there. If they didn't produce their rookie year. I think, obviously cost matters. I don't think Darrell Henderson's a bad pick this year just because of cost, but the probability of them actually panning out is not as great as people would think.
So this is my working theory as an Isabella truther. He played at the University of Massachusetts and weighed 180 pounds probably. Yeah. Maybe he just needed a year to get in an NFL building, learn about how football takes place when it's being done like a professional. Because let's be honest, guys who are playing in the SEC, guys who are playing in the Big 12, they're getting basically the same level of training, nutrition, and everything as NFL players are. I don't think it's that way for the University of Massachusetts Minutemen. So that's my take, is that he just literally was not ready to play in the NFL, but he might be ready now.
Yeah, my other take I input draft capital into my models, and we all look at draft capital. If a guy goes in the second round versus the fourth, of course we're going to favor the guy that goes in the second round. The problem is it only takes one team for that draft capital to be really inflated. And my fear with Isabella is that he would have been a 4th rounder if not for the Cardinals.
For the Cardinals.
The Cardinals just loved him. And then they drafted him way too high. And that's my fear with Isabella too.
Tuttle, okay. Mecole Hardman and Andy Isabella, is there a specific format of fantasy you prefer them in?
Yeah, I think I would go with best ball on that one.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
All in best ball, all out in weekly management.
My only Andy Isabella take is that for somebody that can run so fast, he kind of looks weird running.
He's got a weird gait for sure.
It's because
He does.
I think it's because he's so short too, which kind of makes it's so weird to see him with all those pads on.
But we had that one play last year where he went for like 90 yards, and it just
against the 49ers in week 15.
So definitely a pants off moment there.
I like Tuttle saying he's not going to have any season long takes. Unbeknownst to us, he's been grinding Andy Isabella film here on the low.
Well, you didn't let me get my N'Keal Harry take in, and then
let's get it.
I was just gonna say an upgrade at QB should help. So that's all I was going to say.
Okay, Miles Boykin. They don't have the third tight end anymore. They're likely going to and I think their plan would be to play Chris Moore and Willie Snead. The plan has got to be to play those guys way less.
Yeah, I mean,
I pass to JJ on that one.
I thought Boykin was a little bit overrated coming in because he was not that big.
Not a market share guy.
Yeah, not a big producer, but had the athleticism, so people are going to get excited about that. Draft capital is not out of this world great for him. And to me, Devin Duvernay has a better outlook this season than Miles Boykin does.
Devin Duvernay truthers, they abound. It's like a very weird niche of football Twitter, but like there are Devin Duvernay people out there.
Yeah, for sure.
JJ, so you are an on-the-record Yinzer Steeler apologist. I feel like their position groups have been kind of responsible for some debate in fantasy within the wide receiver cohort with Deante Johnson. Maybe James Washington's getting forgotten. And then also the backfield. We got someone in the chat screaming for you to say McFarland is going to be a running back breakout. Who are your two favorite Steelers, one wide receiver and one running back, since you got lots of options to choose from?
That's a good question. I still think James Conner is actually at a decent value right now because we know the upside's there and we know that he can be a top 5 guy. The injury concerns are certainly there. And I do worry that McFarland's going to end up being stealing more work through the air than we would want him to. But McFarland, realistically, I don't think this is that hot of a take, but he could easily be the most talented running back on that team. It's not like James Conner's just like out of this world great running back. So McFarland's, I don't think he's a terrible dart throw. I think like SFB is actually an interesting format to take a guy like McFarland in case he becomes something more significant than we think. But I would lean James Conner as a just better value right now. And then I am part of the Deante Johnson truther club. I know Davis is not.
It's disgusting.
I don't think it's out of the question that Deante Johnson could outscore JuJu this year.
It's literally against my moral code to even entertain this.
But I do think JuJu is what odds did I put it at?
Remember I think you said plus 400 for Johnson to straight up outscore.
Yeah, I think that
seems
fair.
About right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. But like Deante Johnson, people look at his like profile in college, and his final season wasn't that great. The season before that was way better. But then he also had that like the kick return juice, which is always something that you look for in these guys who maybe didn't. Mecole Hardman is a similar way, where like they didn't look great from a production profile standpoint, but they had that additional piece to their game that shows that they're athletic and they're good and their teams want them on the field. But Deante Johnson, man, I mean, this is a rookie class that was out of this world good last year. And right. Deante Johnson led that class with a clown show at quarterback in receptions. That speaks volumes, I think, to how good he might end up being. I think it's good for JuJu, though, too. So I'm going to go Deante Johnson and James Conner.
Okay. And I know you said you weren't going to do a pod deep dive, or actually I need to say DD. I've been following some of these new day traders in the market, and I couldn't tell at first if they were saying they were doing their due diligence or a deep dive. I think it's deep dive, guys. Have you guys seen this, DD?
I have not.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to start shilling a stock, you need to let people know that you did a DD on it first. That way they know it's legit.
Yeah. Then they I'm in.
We got to get Davis's stock tip of the day.
Yeah. Is it
not
KTOV?
I'm not buying anything right now, dude. It's so terrifying out there.
It's not pretty out there.
Yeah.
Sorry, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So you're not doing a QB DD, but do you have a personal favorite? I think we're all trying to chase. Can we hit on a Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, after the 9th or 10th round? You are Mr. LRQB. Who do you think, we know that those guys are outliers. It's probably not going to happen again, but who do you think could be the closest version of that this year?
I think there are 3 guys that you would want to target late who have the rushing juice that we look for. You know, the markets become really efficient. This is part of the reason why I think like you could realistically go middle round QB now, because middle round is now like,
dude, I'm team middle round QB, and like all these like were you in the action? Yeah, like I'm like 7th round. I'm like, oh, I'm just taking Dak or Kyler or Deshaun, whoever is there for sure.
Yeah, because this is the first year I can remember where the markets become efficient, and we're also seeing finally these rushing quarterbacks be able to be really efficient through the air too. So those guys are clearly giving you that edge up until probably to Josh Allen. I draw the line.
Like those guys are beating
Allen.
QB 12 on a weekly basis by enough for it to matter.
Right. And they're doing it like their arms are better than these other quarterbacks where historically
it's not like Tebow or Terrell Pryor
or even like Cam Newton, right? Where like Cam Newton's best season in fantasy, his best season in fantasy was the crazy touchdown rate MVP season. But like he didn't do that very consistently. So I think there's 3 guys that are kind of intriguing who have the rushing juice, and maybe they get lucky through the air. One of them, since I am filling in for Soccer Dave, I'm going to go with Ryan Tannehill for one of them.
Oh, you have gone full Soccer Dave.
He's full heel.
My Titans, I need to give Tannehill some love. I mean, look, Tannehill was the QB3 after becoming starter last year for Tennessee. He's going to regress, but his ranking right now and his ADP is like QB19. And it's kind of odd. Like 5 years ago, we would have seen Ryan Tannehill be like QB7 in ADP.
For 8th round, lock it up. Yeah,
right.
Like where Baker went last year.
Exactly. But people are recognizing regression. They understand regression, and it's going to hit for Tannehill. But you know what? We know that Tannehill can get it done with his legs. He's athletic. Did you guys know that Ryan Tannehill once played wide receiver? I don't know if you guys heard about that. Yeah, pretty
people
wild.
Forget. Yeah,
people pretty wild.
Fins up.
So I think Tannehill is still intriguing, but 2 other guys, I don't mind throwing darts at Joe Burrow. Also sneaky rushing upside, and then Daniel Jones, just given what he did last year.
Yeah, Daniel Jones to me seems like the guy who could throw up a QB4 season, and actually be a league winner.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got weapons there for Daniel Jones. So you have weapons for Cincinnati as well, which is. I think Burrow is going a bit overlooked. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up as a QB1.